Hello, my name is Guillermo Navarro, and I'm going to speak to you about the alternator. First, we are going to speak about two topics, the alternator location and also the alternator connection. The alternator in a vehicle is located in the engine compartment and is moved by the thermal engine using a belt. You should take into account that in each vehicle it will be located in a slightly different position. The alternator is connected directly to the positive battery terminal. It charges the battery and feeds the electric system when the vehicle engine is running. Other connections are to put in production the alternator when we start our vehicle. Now, I'm going to explain three different ways to check an alternator. These ways are to use a JVT1 machine, a professional one. Next one is to do a traditional tester check, taking measurements with multimeters. And the last one is to unmount the alternator and do a component-by-component check. The check with JVT1 is the most professional one and probably the one who will do the best results. This is the machine, and this, as we can see in the picture, is a safe and clean way to check an alternator. It has a protected zone where we connect the piece to check, and a useful and complete interface to manage it. It is very important, before using this machine, to look on the alternator reference. We will use it on the machine. Now, we are going to see a video of how to use this machine to check an alternator.
First of all, we choose on the machine interface that we want to check an alternator. We must select on the list the alternator reference number, and the machine will show us how to connect it. Then, the tester machine reminds us that we must regard the safety regulations during the process. We select the direction of rotation and we close the protection screen. The belt will start to move the alternator to test it. The JVT1 takes different measurements and analyzes the parameters, confirming if the alternator is working properly. After the test, we can look at the results and access to complementary information of the test.
So now I'm going to explain you how to do a traditional tester check. We will need another machine and a multimeter. In this machine, we use a less sophisticated way to move the alternator. We use an electric motor to spin it, and we must place it firmly before do the test. The test consists in checking the voltage and current obtained during the process with a voltmeter and an amperemeter. Now we are going to see the video of how to check an alternator in this way.
In this machine, we spin the alternator with the electric motor and wait for the lamp turn off. That means the alternator has started to work. Using resistors, we demand the alternator to produce current. Note that the voltage in the blue tester drops slightly when the current in the red tester increases. The alternator should be able to deliver 30% of its nominal current capacity at 2000 revolutions per minute, and the voltage should not drop below 13.8 volts. When we stop the test, we can see the lamp returning to being on slowly.
So this is a second way to check an alternator, and the last one is to do it component by component. To do that, first we have to mount the piece and then check the parts one by one. The first one is the rotor. To check if the rotor is okay, we have to measure the impedance between the two rings it has. Next, we have to check the stator. On the stator, we have to check the continuity between all its coils. And finally, we have to check the diode spirit. Here, we have to measure all the diodes to check if they are working properly. Now, we are going to see a video taking different measures to check all the components.
In the case of observing a malfunction on the alternator, we could disassemble it to check its different components. We check the resistance of the rotor coil, placing the multimeter in resistance mode and applying its probes on the rotor friction rings. The measure should be approximately 3 ohms. On the stator, we check the continuity of the phases, placing the multimeter in continuity mode and applying its probes on the ends of the stator phases. The measurements should be close to 0 and we will hear a beep confirming that. Finally, we measure the potential drop of the diode's bridge. We place the multimeter in diode mode and apply its probes on the anode and cathode of each diode, taking care of placing black probe on terminal B+ and red probe on all 3 phase inputs. The multimeter should show us a measure between 300 and 700, with similar measures at all the diodes.
So this is the last demonstration about how to check an alternator. Thank you so much. Goodbye.